Well, let's talk about this particular book.
Sure.
Specifically, God So Loved the World. You say in the beginning, this volume is concerned with whether the intelligent creator God manifests in logical proofs, scientific evidence, and near-death experiences, and who is the source of the numinous experience, our desire for the sacred, and the four transcendental desires for truth, love, goodness, and beauty, would want to reveal himself to us personally and ultimately. So in a sense, we're establishing that we're transcendent in some way in the earlier books. Obviously, there's a transcendent being, but now you're starting to deal with, if that's the case, why does he want to bother with us?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, science and logic and philosophy can only go so far, right? I mean, essentially, you can figure out, honestly, with science and logic, you can figure out that there is a unique, intelligent creator God that is basically, we call it an unrestricted act of thinking, which is the creator of all else that is. You can actually prove this. You can actually prove a creator of physical reality with scientific proofs like the Board of Lincoln and Guth proof, entropy evidence, etc. You can do a lot with science and logic and reason, but after a while, there are things of the heart, precisely the heart of God, that are not and cannot be proven or articulated by science. Like, for example, does God redeem suffering or doesn't he redeem suffering? Does he love you? Does he not love you? Is there a heaven and a hell? Isn't there a heaven and a hell? If there is a heaven and a hell, how do you get to heaven and how do you avoid hell? And, does God answer prayers? If he does answer prayers, how does he answer prayers? Does he inspire us? Does he guide us? Is there some kind of conspiracy of divine providence? These questions cannot be answered by science or logic, right? These are the questions of the heart, the questions of grace, and the questions that necessarily require a revelation from God. And of course, the point that I would be making from the very beginning of the book is there are these little glimmers of evidence from science and logic that God is love. And the case that I try to make is, if God is love and you view love as your highest power, right? And I'm going to define love in a moment because it could misdefine it in a whole lot of ways. But the idea, though, is if that notion of love, or agape, as Christians call it, if that really is our highest power, if that's the meaning of life, then God would want to reveal himself to us. If God really, in some sense, is love, as Jesus has defined it, then he's going to want to reveal himself to us. He's not going to leave us bereft of these answers. Now, it's true. Einstein, for example, and Aristotle did believe in a God of reason and science and logic, but that God was kind of heartless, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't think Einstein thought God had any emotion, and certainly Aristotle didn't. Aristotle thought, well, God is really super intelligent, but after he created us, I mean, why would he care?
Right.
We're just buffoons.
Great
and
clockmaker in the sky,
right.
kind of a thing, right? Kind of gets it started, walks away, says, good
That's
luck.
right. That's right.
Okay.
But Christianity just flies in the face of all of it.
And you also talk about here not only love, but unconditional love.
Yeah.
Was that different than our understanding was before Christ showed up?
There was absolutely, really no sense of an unconditionally loving God prior to there might have been a glimmer or some word we could interpret from a prophet hither and yon that might look like it, but to be very honest with you, the answer is not before Christianity. Jesus changed the world by declaring that God so unconditionally and unrestrictedly loved us that he would come to be with us and then sacrifice himself completely, obviously, on the cross, in the passion and death, right, because of that, to prove that unrestricted and unconditional love to us, and to open his kingdom to us, and to reveal who he really is, what his heart is, and what he's calling us to. Prior to Christianity, forget it. I mean, it's just not there. But after Christianity, it is there so abundantly, not just in the words of Jesus, but in the heart of the Christian community that's taking this message out, becoming, you know, the biggest public welfare, public health, public education system in the world, literally undermining slavery and changing world culture everywhere, not just in Rome, but through all of its missionary churches around the world. So what you're dealing with at the end of the day is this remarkable event that takes place, is world changing. And you look at it and you go, wait a minute, there was this itinerant prophetic preacher and he came and he changed the whole world like this. I mean, how did he do it?
Right.
Because he was the Son of God.
Well, in chapter 3, you talk about
Exactly.
the evidence for the claims, the veracity of the claims that Jesus made. And you're saying here that recent New Testament historical research has uncovered considerable evidence for these claims. How so?
Well, first of all, you know, with respect to the miracles of Jesus, right? You know, this book by John P. Meyer, which people really should read. It's a hard read, but it's called A Marginal Jew, Volume 2, and about 700 pages of that work is devoted to a defense of the miracles of Jesus. And that defense is very good, but it's a tough exegetical slog using all kinds of historical criteria, but very careful scientific exegetical work is done on that. If you want the Cliff Notes version of it,
I'm listening now.
You can go, that's right, you can go right to this chapter 4 on the miracles of Jesus. And
College students would recognize that term.
That's right, exactly. So, but actually in chapter 5 too, we go through that and just kind of break down Meyer's arguments, you know, in a much more simple way, but without undermining the integrity of the argument itself.